Hello everyone, I am Miss Ozoda. Today we're gonna focus on our writing part of our IELTS marathon. And this lesson is mainly focused on task 1, and like the first two lessons will be focused on task 1. First of all, today I will explain you general structure, and next lesson I will explain you two additional types of questions in task 1. So first of all, what do you know about task 1? Some of you know that this one is a report. You have different diagrams, line graph, bar chart, but I will explain you in detail. So task 1 is a report where you should describe a picture or a diagram. You should describe or you should compare, and you should use specific vocabulary. So I will show you different examples. You can see here, this one is line graph, this one is bar graph, this one is pie chart, this one is table. And we have two additional types of questions. They are map and process. Map and process will be explained in the next lesson, in the second lesson. So for today, you should know 4 main types of questions. Now, you have already seen the examples of task 1, and the first question that can come up to your mind is that how to get a high score from your task 1 or writing in general. Of course, you need a vocabulary, specific vocabulary that can be useful for your report. It's not everyday English vocabulary or academic vocabulary, business language. No, you just need a language of comparison, description, and also you should be able to describe numbers. For example, half, twice, double, different kinds of words that can be used in your exam, in your task 1 report. The second question is, where can I get this kind of vocabulary? So we have different books where we can find different vocabulary, words that are related to trends, comparison, descriptions, to numbers. So I will send these materials to our group. You can download it and you can also print it and use it in your task 1. Okay, maybe the first question come to your mind, how can I get a high score from my task 1? So actually, in order to get a high score from your task 1 or writing in general, you need a good vocabulary, good lexical resource. So the second question is, how can I get this vocabulary? How can I find this vocabulary? You need different materials, different books, and you should do some research actually, but I will send different books to our group where you can find specific vocabulary that is related to comparison, to description, and to trends, to different kinds of trends, also maps and processes. So these materials will be available in our group. Okay, let's discuss the general structure of task 1, the 3 basic rules that you should follow. The first one is you have 20 minutes. The second thing is you have 150 words. So that means in 20 minutes, you should write down at least 150 words. Third basic rule is that you mustn't add or you mustn't write down your opinion, your thoughts. You just need to work with given data. And now I can show you the general structure of task 1. We have 4 paragraphs. The first one is introduction. The second one is overview. Details 1, details 2. First of all, let's focus on introduction and overview. So what should we write down in introduction? So introduction is usually the paraphrasing of the main question. For example, the graph below shows the amount of waste produced by 3 companies over a period of 15 years. And in our chart, we are given different years, companies, and also waste in tons. And now there is our answer. The line graph compares 3 companies in terms of their waste output between the years 2000 and 2015. As you can see, we add some additional information, we paraphrased everything that we could, and I think that's enough for our introduction. So, what did we do in our introduction? We changed different verbs, different nouns into their synonyms. So that's why we got a good introduction. Also, we paid attention to our line graph in general. We add specific years and also specific countries. So that's why this is a basic rule of introduction. Okay, let's move to an overview. So overview is the second paragraph in our essay, and overview in simple words is a summary of what you see. So in overview, you mustn't use any details, any numbers, any specific data, because overview is just a summary. And in overview, you mustn't use your opinion and thoughts as well, because a lot of students usually add something like in my opinion or to my mind. No, you mustn't use your opinion, because this is a report, not an essay. So in overview, you should write down, like as I said before, something in general. So now I will read the example. Okay. It is clear that there was significant changes in the amounts of waste produced by all three companies shown on the graph. While companies A and B saw waste output fall over the 15-year period, the amount of waste produced by company C increased considerably. So, as you can see in overview, we didn't use any data, any numbers. So this is a perfect example of how to write an overview. So you can ask me, why do we need overview? Overview not only help you, but also helps the examiner to visualize the picture, to understand the main points, not only main, but also important points of your essay. And examiner will check your skills to analyze the data in general. And also he checks, can you identify the main points, important factors in your report. And overview will guide you how to write your details 1 and 2. So like the name details. So details means specific data and information about the graph, chart, table. So that's why in details you are allowed to write down each and every number you see. But usually, we don't need every number, every percentage in our data, in our diagram. We just need to identify, as I said before, main points and write down on your details 1, details 2 paragraphs. So, details 1 and details 2, now we're gonna read it as well, and I will outline very important moments in our essay. In 2000, Company A produced 12 tons of waste, while companies B and C produced around 8 tons and 4 tons of waste material respectively. Over the following 5 years, the waste output of companies B and C rose by around 2 tons, but the figure for company A fell by approximately 1 ton. This one is details 1. Let's move to details 2. From 2005 to 2015, Company A cut waste production by roughly 3 tons, and Company B reduced its waste by around 7 tons. By contrast, Company C saw an increase in waste production of approximately 4 tons over the same 10-year period. By 2015, Company C's waste output had risen to 10 tons, while the respective amounts of waste from companies A and B had dropped to 8 tons and only 3 tons. As you can see here, we have 192 words, and the band of this essay is 9. As you can see, this is a band 9 task 1. It wasn't written by me, it was written by Simon, the most popular and like we can say famous examiner, ex-examiner, and also he's an IELTS instructor. I usually, when I was preparing for my exam, I usually followed him because I saw an ideal example, like perfect example of how to write like task 1 and task 2. So that's why I also recommend you to use Simon's materials. And the last part of our lesson, the first lesson, is please always pay attention to vocabulary. As you could see in our details, we used a lot of vocabulary related to trends and changes. For example, increase, decrease, like undergo, like witness, increase, rose, drop, different kinds of vocabularies that usually describe a picture. So that's why I will send a book to group and you should write down every new word like on your copybook. And maybe you have a question. So what about other types of questions? For example, bar graph, line graph, like pie chart and table. The structure is the same. It doesn't matter, even map or process, the structure is the same. And the logic also is the same. And vocabulary, of course, like sometimes differ, but as I said before, the logic, the structure, the general structure is the same. And like I will send this essay to group or to our channel, and you should read it and you should like analyze, outline different words that you haven't known. And as your homework, I will send different exercises for task 1. And also, you should write down introduction and overview. Okay, if you pay attention, here we have a lot of vocabulary in our details. So, for example, increase, decrease, drop, fall, and also we have different like not vocabulary but grammar structures, like complex grammar structures like while, respectively, and all of those. So I will send different exercises like on these grammar structures, and you can do it at home if you want, of course. And as a homework, I will give you like different, how to say it? I will send different like diagrams, and you should write down your introduction and overview on them. Well, as a bonus, I also wanted to analyze one task 1 with you that was written not by me, but by Simon, ex-examiner, and now he's an IELTS instructor. Okay, I chose a line graph because this one is the most common graph in our exam. So today we will discuss internet users like in 3 different countries. Okay, as you can see, our line graph here, we are given 3 lions. So all lions were explained in a small table. So for example, these points mean the USA, like the straight line, call it Canada, and also Mexico, bold line, Mexico. So it will help us to define our figures in our line graph. Also, as you can see, we have years from 1999 to 2009. And the topic is internet users as percentage of population. And also, like, as you can see, we have a question. So this question should be paraphrased in our introduction. So let's start analyzing. So now you have some time to read our introduction. So our introduction is: the line graph compares the percentage of people in 3 countries who used the internet between 1999 and 2009. Okay, as you can see in our introduction, we just paraphrase it like some words, some verbs, and like also nouns. But pay attention, we first of all exactly say which graph is that. So line graph, because usually you are not like given this, how to say, the exact graph in the question. So that's why you should first of all define which graph is that. Next one is compares the line graph compares. This one is vocabulary, comparison of vocabulary, because you are usually given like this graph shows. So instead of using show all the time, you can write down compare, illustrate, demonstrate. Next one is the percentage of people in 3 countries. We don't always have to write down all 3 countries all the time. We don't have to name them all the time. So that's why we can just write down that in 3 countries as like general description. Next one is like I really like the way they write years. For example, we can say between 1999 and 2009, but also we can use another structure from 1999 to 2009. But also we don't always need to write down like years. We can just like find out the difference between given years. For example, here we have 10 years like difference between them, so we can say a 10-year period, for example. Let's move to our overview. First of all, you have some time to read the overview. You can pause the video, but I will read it now. It is clear that the proportion of the population who use the internet increased in each country over the period shown. Overall, a much larger percentage of Canadians and Americans had access to the internet in comparison with Mexicans, and Canada experiences the fastest growth in the internet usage. First of all, pay attention that we use past tense, not present, not future, because all years were in the past. Next thing is the beginning of the overview. It is clear that. You should remember that you can write, you can start not from it is clear that, but also from overall or what stands out from the graph. Next one is pay attention that we don't have any specific data, any numbers, or we don't have specific information about each country. We have just general summary about each country and we compare them. And next thing is that I really like is a vocabulary. So, for example, a much larger percentage, not just larger percentage, but a much larger percentage. Next one is Canadians and Americans. We don't have to use the country all the time. We can use their nationality. For example, we don't have to write down England all the time. We can say British or Britons. Next one is the vocabulary, comparison vocabulary. For example, in comparison with or compared to. We can use these words, these phrases to compare our graph. Let's move to our detailed paragraphs. So you have some time to read it and you can pause the video. So in 1999, the proportion of people using the internet in the USA was about 20%. The figures for Canada and Mexico were lower, at about 10% and 5% respectively. In 2005, internet usage in both the USA and Canada rose to around 70% of the population, while the figure for Mexico reached just over 25%. In details paragraph, I really like the vocabulary that was used. For example, the proportion of people. We don't have to use the percentage all the time. We have its synonym, for example, proportion. Next one is the percentage. We cannot see the exact number in our line graph. So that's why we should use approximation. We should try to use approximation. For example, we have approximation vocabulary. For example, approximately, about, around, roughly. Next one is the figures for. The figures for, I also like this phrase because we cannot say all the time like Canada, Canada, or lion, lion. No, it is better to say the figures instead of lion, respectively structure and while structure. So respectively means in the second sentence you are given 2 countries and also 2 percentages. So that means for Canada,
10% is related to Canada, 5% is related to Mexico. This structure will help you to define which percentage is related to which country. And in our last sentence, we have while structure. While, instead of while, you can also write down whereas. So while means you are comparing two situations at the same time. So while structure is also useful. This one is conjunction, contrast conjunction. And you can learn about this, like you can do some research on these structures because they are very useful. And let's analyze details too. Here we have like by 2009, the percentage of internet users was highest. You see, was highest. Comparison language, it's not like superlative language actually, yes. In Canada, almost 100% of Canadians use the internet, compared to 80% of Americans and only 40% of Mexicans. As you can see here, we have a bit like, complex sentence. However, it was understandable for reader to understand like which percentage is related to which country. 100 is Canadians, for example, 80% is Americans and 40% is Mexicans. So in order to improve your task 1, you should always analyze different kinds of task 1s, for example, like reports, not only by assignment, but also like we have a lot of IELTS instructors, we have a lot of examples like on the internet. So that's why you should always analyze and analyze not only the vocabulary or just the paragraph, you can also analyze the structures that they use.
And I will send different books and materials that can be useful for self-study. And also I will send very funny exercises that can be done at home by yourself. So thank you for the lesson. I really hope you will like the lesson and see ya next lesson.